When Daenerys Targaryen first appeared on Game of Thrones, few would have guessed just how fierce, strong, unflinching, and sometimes brutal she would eventually become. Introduced as Viserys Targaryen's meek, timid younger sister, Dany offered no indication that she would later become a conquering queen and mother of dragons. Daenerys is born amidst chaos and strife following the dismantling of the centuries-long Targaryen reign in the wake of the destructive uprising known as Robert's Rebellion. In the immediate aftermath of the murder of her father, King Aerys Targaryen, known as the Mad King for his increasingly despotic and bloodthirsty rule, Viserys and his mother, who was pregnant with Dany at the time, were whisked away from King's Landing to the ancestral home of the Targaryens, a castle on an island in the narrow sea known as Dragonstone. While a fierce storm raged outside, Dany's mother Rhaella, who was also her aunt thanks to the Targaryens' penchant for inbreeding, gave birth to her daughter. From then on, Dany would be known as Daenerys Stormborn. Rhaella died during childbirth. After this, Viserys and the newborn Daenerys were taken eastward by Targaryen loyalists to live a sheltered, protected life of exile in so-called free cities, former colonies of the Valyrian freehold where the Targaryen family had originated from. As they grew up, Viserys schemed and plotted various ways to reclaim the Iron Throne from the usurper King Robert Baratheon, who had claimed the throne after the death of the Mad King and the sacking of King's Landing. None of his plans came to fruition, as he was unable to raise support or gather a sufficient army to overtake the forces of Westeros. While residing in the free city of Pentos in the house of Magister Illyrio Mopatis, Viserys arranged to marry his teenage sister off to a Dothraki warrior known as Khal Drogo in exchange for the use of the Khal's Dothraki khalasar, his tribe of fellow Dothraki warriors, which numbered around 40,000. These warriors would provide Viserys with the sufficient numbers and manpower needed to overthrow the usurper and restore Targaryen rule of the Seven Kingdoms. Unbeknownst to Viserys, blinded as he was by his mad lust for power and his own narcissism and petulance, Dany would thrive as Khaleesi, or Queen, of Drogo's khalasar, and following his death lead them herself. Viserys, in a drunken haze of impatience and arrogance, eventually demanded that Drogo give him the crown that he'd been promised, which led to Drogo doing just that, pouring molten gold over his head, killing him instantly. Khal Drogo later died of an injury sustained in battle, and during his funeral, as his body was burned on a pyre, Daenerys placed 3 dragon eggs she'd received as a wedding gift atop the conflagration. She then entered the pyre herself, emerging the next morning, unburnt, with 3 newly hatched dragons, the first to exist in the world for centuries. In the successive years, Daenerys amassed an even larger army thanks in part to the fearsome and intimidating force of her dragons, but also to her kindness, cunning, and intelligence. Her empathy towards the abused, the downtrodden, and enslaved, seared into her after years of abuse by her sadistic older brother, led to her freeing of the Unsullied warriors from their captivity, thereby also increasing the number of her forces, and to her being dubbed Misa, or Mother, to the youngish slaves she freed. While Dany has had several suitors over the course of the seasons following Drogo's death, from the unrequited love of her fellow exile and trusted advisor Ser Jorah Mormont, to the dashing Tyroshi sellsword Daario Naharis with Jon Snow, former Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, and believed to be the bastard child of Ned Stark of Winterfell. As has since been revealed, however, Jon Snow is actually the legitimate child of Daenerys' late brother Rhaegar Targaryen and his wife Lyanna Stark, making Daenerys Jon Snow's aunt. Given the Targaryen predilection for incest, this may ultimately have been a non-issue.